might begin making a feature a rap. Cause when I hit your beat, I turn shit to Iraq. Dropping bombs like I'm cursing you out. This your house, then I'm kicking you out. Quiet as a mouse, came in the game, now the word is out that I've been lighting the flame. Shit is potent, don't you know it? I've been flowing, steady growing till they know the name. Saw it ahead of time, knew that I'd get to my losing myself in the view to some window pane. I swear I'm all about peace, I'm a positive person. Wasn't always like that, you know it took me some learning. They asked me how I push a positive light, how I keep my composure through internal fights when addressing the mic through these dark nights. Where the Bruce Wayne, what a trick be. Here's some truth that I'll let free. Bruce Banner of rap if you ask me. When my will to win and the track meet, the secret is I'm always angry. Yo, gassed up, I'm about to go green. Go green, go green. Hulk smash if she know me. Know me, know me. Write it to life like I'm Stan Lee. Stan Lee, Stan Lee. If life's about to be a Cold War, I'm the hero that they asked for. Green, 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 green. I'm about to go green. I'm about to go green. I'm about to go green. Get the fuck back, I'm about to go green.
All right, y'all, thanks for being here. I did this very quickly. I wanted to make sure I got up on here and I could share some breaking news with you guys. Now, if you guys read the ticker, you already know what the deal is. Usually I don't jump on live like this. Usually I make a TikTok video first, post it, give you guys an abbreviated version of what's going on, and then I jump on my YouTube later tonight and I talk about it in long form. But when this one broke a couple of hours ago, I got a message, and don't make me show you the message, but I got a message in my DMs from somebody, an insider at Georgia, and he said, hey, just so you know, because you want to be factual, I want to show you what we did with our retraction. And I thought that was pretty cool. If you look in here, the breaking news right now all over the internet, 3 hours ago, an hour ago, they're out here retracting. Georgia's retracting. If you guys don't know what a retraction is when a newspaper admits they've made a fault, an error, a problem, and they have to retract it, okay? So here's what happens. When you write an error in the paper, let's say there's a typo. I can remember I used to work at a newspaper, just so you guys know, for point of reference here. I used to work for a newspaper, and when we worked at the paper, if we made a typo or an error, you know, we'd go out there and we'd fix it. First, when the paper's printed at midnight out of the printing press, there's a ton of errors on the newspaper. And when they find the errors, they print off, like, think of it as rough drafts. They print off these rough drafts, and when you read the paper, you'll find all these typos and errors in the paper. We call those checkers. And we would go through the checkers by hand, us, a bunch of editors, everybody going through it, copy editors, actual positions, writers, everybody. So you're going through it and you're looking for errors. And you might have found a ton of errors. And when you find the errors in the checkers, this is after the first print. Then you put in the corrections, and then they go into print again. And then comes out this pristine paper. But here's the deal. Because when they're printing out the paper out of the factory, out of the printing press, they've already put it on the back of trucks. They already got to get it out and go get it delivered that morning so it'll be on your driveway or in those funny vending machines, right? So once they're getting all the papers out, the people furthest away from the newspaper, they get a paper filled with typos and errors. But the people who are closer in proximity to where the newspaper gets printed, they get a perfect paper. So you might have gone through your whole life reading the same newspaper going, man, this paper's full of crap. There's all these errors on this paper. Look at this shit. They don't know what they're doing. They can't even spell. They got typos here. They misspelled this. Look at it. Oh my God, it's gross. They said this is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in the picture. You know, whatever it is. And when they make errors, so when you hear that they won an award, and you go, how did that paper win an award? Everything I see is trash. Well, the final product is usually pretty good. So that's not what a retraction is, though. A retraction is when you write an error so egregious, you need to let the public know we made a mistake. And it's usually right on the front page. We used to have this section on the far left. It was your front page column writer, right? If you're a front page columnist, you would write your column over here. Well, if we had a retraction, it was going on the front page in the lower left corner after the flip, right? After the fold. And it would say retraction real big, and it would let you know, we incorrectly identified so-and-so as being this, that, or the other, and it was really this. We incorrectly said so-and-so won the game, and it turns out after we got the phone call wrong, our reporter got the numbers wrong, so-and-so really didn't rush for 200 yards, it was really 100 yards, whatever it is. So the retractions are very common, okay? So when you see a major university is asking and not asking, but demanding that they retract numerous accounts from their newspaper. And now this is Georgia University saying Atlanta Journal-Constitution, AJC, you need to retract this right now. What matters to me is, number one, does the newspaper acknowledge that they made errors? Or is this still a he said, she said thing? Okay, is this a he said, she said thing? So for those of you on TikTok who are wondering what's going on right now, you guys need to go to YouTube. You can click on the link up here and you can join and you can see the chat and you can see the graphic I'm about to show you. Because I'm about to show you guys the entire letter. And it's important that you see the entire letter, especially for journalistic integrity from me. So nobody has this whole letter out here. It's not on any of these pages. Like when you click on this, I don't care if it's on 3. Click on 3. They do not have the document here. They just have a synopsis of what's going on. No one has the whole document. Not a single one of these news websites has it, but I do. So here is the demand for retraction. I got it from a Google Drive, so I have the actual document here. I'm putting it on the screen for everybody to read. I'm going to make myself a little small, and we're going to go through this. Now, who is this from? If you start looking at it, it's from Georgia University, but before we go any further, we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And it's from Michael Raber. Now, I don't know Michael Raber, but apparently he's important. Okay, Michael Raber's important, General Counsel, University of Georgia Athletics Association. All right, so Michael Raber is addressing publishers, editor-in-chief, and managing editors. Please understand that in the echelon of leadership at a newspaper, these guys are at the top. I worked at a newspaper for 4 years. 3 years. I worked at a newspaper for 3 years. I never spoke, and I was an agate clerk, a statistician, and a sports writer. I never spoke to anybody above my sports editor. And I had many sports editors. We had like one during the day, one at night. We had a bunch of copy editors. Those are the guys that are senior writers who now write the headlines and proofread what the writers write. So you're a writer, you write something, a copy editor will come in and kind of abbreviate it and cut it and make it fit the space. It's important we understand that. One thing we never cut are quotes. I'm going to get back to that. One thing we never cut are quotes. So let's say you wrote a 10-page story, but we got to fit it into 18 inches. Well, as the editor and everybody goes cutting it to make it fit in the space on the newspaper, one thing we never cut are quotes. No way. Because somebody said that in verbatim and we need to take it that far, okay? So, with that being said, here's what Georgia University is accusing the Atlanta Journal-Constitution of. It's pretty remarkable because this is not just an error, it's egregious conduct by one writer. They single out one writer, which I think is pretty ballsy. What they're saying is you have a journalist at your newspaper who lacks journalistic integrity. We want a retraction on the grounds that he is fabricating things. One guy. I get so many messages on TikTok telling me, Rico, AJC hates Georgia. The newspaper itself hates Georgia. And I'm going, I don't think so. I think that they're honest people and they're doing investigative reporting because I have been a reporter. I have a lot of respect for investigative reporting. I'm a sports journalist. I think that I dig around a lot and do a lot of research before I make a video and before I make a claim. I have to make sure I know what I'm saying or else you lose credibility. So is the school right or is the newspaper just a shock magazine? Do they lack journalistic integrity? Well, let's find out. So when you read it here, it's addressed to AJC. And as we go, it says, ladies and gentlemen, I write on behalf of the University of Georgia. Right? Okay. We demand the prompt retraction of a recent article authored by Alan Judd. So Alan Judd is the villain here. Alan Judd is the guy. They're making him out to be worse than a lot of other people. Just remember that. Now, from what I'm about to read you guys, you let me know if Alan Judd is a problem. You let me know if Alan Judd needs to be stopped. Because if he is, my goodness, do I think he needs to be fired? I'm letting you guys know that right now. This article, right? So Alan Judd wrote an article he authored by investigative reporter Alan Judd entitled UGA Football Program Rallies When Players Are Accused of Abusing Women. Now, I want to make this very clear. It's very clear. Alan Judd did not write that title. Remember what I told you. I know newspapers. Alan Judd, as a writer, he doesn't write the headline. A copy editor writes the headline, or his sports editor writes the headline. He actually writes the paper. He writes his story, sends it to them, and just waits. And they will come up with the headline. Somebody else does it. I'm telling you this. Photographers, they take pictures, somebody else adds the caption. Seriously. Nonetheless, it says here, it was titled this, published by AJC on the 27th of June. So here we are, 11 July. They let it marinate for about 2 weeks, 14 days. On the front page edition, right? It was on a Sunday. It was their big story. I read all of it. I read the whole story. But here we go. This article is the latest in a series by Mr. Judd focused on UGA football program in the aftermath of January 15th this year. That's when, obviously, they had a player die and a staff member die. We strongly disagreed with many aspects of Mr. Judd's reporting over the last 6 months. So they didn't just limit it to this one story, although the retraction, they're saying the retraction is this one story. They're going back 6 months. But for an organization whose newsroom ethics code, and now they're quoting their ethics code, states that, quote unquote, professional integrity is the cornerstone of our credibility. That's what I've been telling you guys about newspapers all around the world, all across the country. I do not ever question the journalistic integrity of a newspaper because I know that that is their premise. That's the only reason they can exist. Freedom of the press is essential to this country. If you don't believe me, look at what the student newspaper just did at Northwestern. They tried to give the head coach a 2-week ban in July, and the student newspaper said, "Nuh-uh, we're going to interview the victims, and we're going to put this shit on blast," and coach is fired. You go from 2-week ban in July to completely unemployed. The astronomical leap there by a student newspaper, shout out to them. Those are some real journalists. So over here, we have the university quoting their ethics code and saying, you crossed the line. It says his most recent article crossed a new line. So they have issue with him for the last 6 months. Now he crossed a new line. Mr. Judd's article is replete with errors. Now, if it's replete with errors, I just told you guys how things are replete with errors. It could be replete with errors because you're too far from where it got printed. It could be replete from errors because you saw it before it got proofread. But if there are still errors after all the editors proofread it, then you're actually picking a fight with the editors. If there's errors, you're picking a fight with the editors, not the writer. Although they name Alan Judd, they are very directly saying somebody else allowed these errors to be in here. So what are the errors? Are the errors typos? Nope. It says unsubstantiated allegations. Okay. Innuendo. Guys, when you write a story, innuendo is going to be laced throughout. And that just means inferring things. And if you don't know the difference between inferring something and having bona fide evidence, right? You can infer things from people. Like, I can infer you're a vegetarian if I asked you what do you eat for dinner, and if you gave me everything you ate for dinner for an entire month, if I didn't see any meat in there, I could infer you don't eat meat. Now, you didn't make a statement and said I'm a vegetarian, but I can go, man, this person eats a meatless diet for dinner. I think they're a vegetarian. That's inferring conclusions. Innuendo is kind of laced within there, okay? Just to be clear. And this one says, so his articles are replete with errors, unsubstantiated allegations, innuendo, and possibly even fabrications. Whoa, that can't fly, guys. Fabrications in newspapers cannot fly unless you start it with the premise, right? With the premise, and that meaning give us a heads up. Let us know. In my mind, my theory, this is what I think happened. You could do that. This is my theory. This is my thesis. This is what I think might have happened. They do this a lot when they're reenacting crimes, right? You'll see a show and they're going to reenact a crime and they'll be like, hey, this is what we're doing. Nonetheless, they're accusing this particular writer, Alan Judd, of fabrications. We do not write to you lightly, is what Georgia says next. We do not write to you lightly. We are accustomed to the rough scrutiny of a robust press, and we appreciate its central importance in a free society. I've already addressed all this, right? But this article stands out in its reckless disregard for the truth and its imposition of a damaging narrative unsupported by the facts. You got to have facts if you're going to say something damaging. Fair. Okay. The AJC's newsroom ethics code states, quote unquote, in our news reports, we do not lie. That's what it says. Georgia says we do not fabricate and we do not distort images or audio in a manner that is misleading. Oh, this is part of their ethics code. We do not lie, we do not fabricate, and we do not distort images or audio in a manner that is misleading. Then Georgia says, yet several parts of Mr. Judd's article begin with the very concerning conclusion that aspects of his reporting are indeed fabricated, whether knowingly or recklessly. Now, did he knowingly fabricate this? You would hope not. Did he recklessly fabricate this? You would hope not. But George is claiming both. It says, without these significant errors, distortions, or potential fabrications, there is simply no basis for the article's central thesis. And the central thesis is Georgia rallies in defense of sexual abusers. Georgia rallies in defense of players accused of sexual assault. And he gave an example when they all rushed to the courtroom, right? Nonetheless, let's keep going. There it is. The central thesis that the Georgia football program actively supports players accused of abusing women. Consider that thesis and how abhorrent it is. To quote Carl Sagan, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But time and time again, the article fails to provide any credible factual basis for its sensational claims. We do not shy away from good reporting that informs the public and helps us consider our programs and the ways we can improve them. Fair? But we also do not shy away from calling out reporting that fails to meet these standards. And that's exactly what they're doing, apparently. AJC Newsroom Ethics Code proclaims, quote unquote, we admit our errors and correct them. That's a retraction. We admit our errors and correct them. When I was new to writing, and I remember one of my sports editors, one of my copy editors, he actually got fired. You guys don't know this. Dinah Shore was a famous singer in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Dinah Shore. She was a famous singer around 40s and 50s time frame. And in Palm Springs, California, they named a golf tournament after her. It's called the Dinah Shore Classic. So there's a golf tournament in homage to Dinah Shore. This would be like naming a golf tournament Taylor Swift, right? So Bob Hope was in his later 90s, right? Bob Hope was in his early 90s, late 90s at this time, and he would always make appearances everywhere. And if you guys don't know who Bob Hope is, Google's your friend. So Bob Hope lives in where I live, and Bob Hope is going to go to this tournament, and he decides he's not going, he's too old, he's ill, and he can't make it. And one of the copy editors wrote in the headline, Bob Hope pulls out of Dinah Shore, because he's pulling out of the golf tournament. He's pulling out of Dinah Shore. The copy editor was too young to know that Dinah Shore was the name of a girl, of a woman. So he wrote, Bob Hope pulls out of this woman, Dinah Shore. What? This would be the equivalent of Justin Timberlake pulls out of Jessica Simpson. That would be the title on a headline. Everybody would lose their minds. He put it in the paper. He got fired. They did a retraction and said, my bad. We didn't mean to do that. So it happens. Errors happen, but you got to own them and retract them. This is what they're saying. The retraction should be prompt, clearly identified as a retraction. So clearly identify it and featured and promoted as conspicuously and publicly as the original article. What they're saying is your Sunday edition, and that's the most famous newspaper, the biggest seller all the time, the most famous one, okay? You guys got to understand. When you go out and put something out on a Sunday, everybody reads it. They want their Sunday paper. What George is saying is, AJC, when you retract this, don't do it quietly. Don't just let it disappear from your website. You retract this, you better announce it to the world. It better be on ESPN. It better be on every news outlet that you put it on when you accused us of doing this. They want it as promoted publicly as the original article. Shout out to them. Rallying in support of 11 players, quote unquote. So now, the central contention of Mr. Judd's article appears in the headline, and this is the headline, quote unquote, UGA football program rallies when players accused of abusing women. Athletes often remain on the team despite sexual assault, domestic violence allegations. Now, this is true. Some athletes did stay on the team after recording their girlfriend doing, one guy recorded his girlfriend unknowingly. Revenge porn, essentially, is what he's charged with. And although he was charged with it and guilty of it, Georgia let him stay on campus. Georgia let him stay on the team, work out with the team. He got to enter the transfer portal in good standing. What? That's a little shady. That's wrong. But they're saying here, the depiction of how you sell it makes it sound like we support domestic violence, and we don't. So, in case after case, the newspaper found strong on-field performance appears to excuse bad off-field behavior. That's a fact. That's what they wrote. Now, the article states, this article's thesis is not that UGA's football program condones or tolerates sexual misconduct, but that it actively supports players accused of such behavior. Now, this is apples and oranges here. Georgia's saying we don't actively support them. You guys wrote an article that says we actively support them. What we really do is just ignore off-field behavior in favor of on-field performance. Whoa. Whoa. Come on, man. Come on. As support for this proposition, Mr. Judd claims the Journal-Constitution identified 11 players during Smart's tenure who remained with the team after women reported them in violent encounters to police. Right? Yet the article only identifies 2 players by name and another without naming him. So what George is saying is, you said we have 11 sexual offenders. You only named 3. Whoa. Whoa. You only named 3. Listen to what they're saying. You identified 3 guys. You owe us 11. You owe us 11. Fair? Fair. He should not write double-digit numbers if he doesn't have them. But maybe he does. I don't know. Alan Judd, this guy, by the way, just so we're clear, Alan Judd is in Georgia locker rooms. Alan Judd is at Georgia press conference. He's on campus. This guy has talked to Kirby Smart hundreds of times. This is not some outsider sitting on a social media app talking smack. This is an actual investigative reporter interviewing players and coaches. It's true. So, noting this discrepancy and skeptical of the claim, we asked Mr. Judd to provide a full list of the 11 players that meet his description. He initially responded he was away from his office without his files, but would respond when he returned to the office. So Georgia reached out to him and said, give us the names. Give us the 11 guys. Give us the 11 guys. And he played dumb. He said, I'll get back to you guys when I get back to the office. He claims the AJC has a policy not to release unpublished information, meaning I can't reveal my sources. It's a little shady. Alan Judd, we're getting towards shady right now, bruh. If they had 3 guys, 3's enough. You don't have to write 11. If they had 3, they had 3. You don't have to write 11. I got beef with fabricating numbers right now, guys. Okay? If you're on TikTok and you want to see the graphic and you want to know what we're talking about, move over to YouTube. We got it up. You guys can just hit up here, hit the link, and join the live stream. Sorry about that. Now, I got beef with Alan Judd if he's making up numbers and he's tap dancing to get him information. I don't give a shit how terrible George is. I don't care if they got 3 sexual offenders. You don't go write 11. You don't do it. 3's enough. You don't have to shock and awe me with numbers. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm going to be thoroughly pissed if an investigative reporter made up numbers for the hell of it. You know how hard I dig around for accurate statistics? I got beef with this right now. I'm not joking. I'm going to call the AJC. I'm not even bluffing. I'll call them tomorrow. I know they're not answering. And you know what? You guys want to know something? Investigative reporters and sports writers, they work late at night because sports games finish in the evening, right? You can't even write the paper until all the games are over. So they work late at night. So I'm guaranteed this guy's at work tonight. He sleeps in until about 2 every single day. I'm just letting you know. Nonetheless, let me keep reading here. Even if such a policy exists, the AJC did publish this information. Whoa, there you go. The AJC did publish 11. So even if it exists, you got to give me the 11. Mr. Judd published an article, right? I don't even know that E word. Exhortating the UGA football program for rallying on behalf of players accused of abusing women, primarily based on the assertion that it was 11 players that remained on the team after being accused. The AJC Newsroom Ethics Code states it is quote-unquote transparent about its news gathering methods. I'd love to know it. But when asked simply to provide a list of 11 names referenced in the article, Mr. Judd refused. This is not attorney-client privilege, bro. This doesn't fly with me. We are confident that there are not 11 players during Smart's tenure who remained with the team after women reported violent encounters. Georgia's saying we're confident. But at the same time, what is Georgia really saying? We already counted it. We know it's only 10. You can't even come up with 11. We already counted it. We know it's only 7. That's what kind of bugs me. The fact that the school knows there was people accused of sexual assault and sexual and violent crimes against women, but the hesitation here or the gripe is, what, 11? 11? I don't know. Like that's what bugs me, guys. We know 3 right off the bat. He named 3 in the article, okay? It's just, I can't go to bat for a university that's okay with 3. But yes, there's beef when there's 11. You guys feel me? That's all I'm saying. Nonetheless, let's go back. Indeed, even the 3 players mentioned in Mr. Judd's article do not meet this description. And that's because recording your girlfriend while having sex is not a violent crime against women. They're going to do those little nuances. Tell me what it is, bro. It's not consent. It's illegal. Don't tell me it's not a violent crime against women. I don't want to hear that. Neither is date rape. If you slip her a pill and she falls asleep, it's not very violent. I'm just letting you know. Still incredibly wrong. Indeed, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Judd's refusal to provide the factual basis for his assertion calls his credibility into serious question. Now, this is true. This is true. But while refusing to provide the basis for his sensational claim, Mr. Judd continues to repeat it in media interviews. Pretty wild. But hey, man, if you put it in writing and your editors already published it and everybody approved it, you can't change the number now unless you do a retraction. You got to go around and just keep saying 11. It's crazy. OJ's still telling me he's innocent, bro. I'm just letting you guys know. He can't change the story now. He's just telling me he's innocent. It's nuts. In one recent interview, Mr. Judd described the situations involving the 3 players described in his article as the most egregious and most serious examples of UGA rallying for players accused of violence against women. But none of these 3 examples supports Mr. Judd's claims. Okay? So, AKA, they're not the most egregious and they're not the most serious. Guys, do you understand what they're arguing here? They're arguing adjectives. They're arguing adjectives. This is not the most egregious, we had a worse one. This is not the most serious, we had a worse one. We had a more serious one. It's pretty nuts. The audacity. I'm just letting you know right now. This is, for me, and the way I assess this whole article, is one shitbag arguing with another shitbag right now. I got a beef with AJC right now because you allowed one of your reporters to lie, fabricate, and dodge. But Georgia, you still have people on your team that did terrible things to women, and you rallied. It just wasn't 11, it was 3. Come on, bro. Still shit, just terrible ethics. I got 3 daughters. One's a freshman in college. I'm just letting you know, I got beef with this. Nonetheless, but none of the 3 examples supports Mr. Judd's claims. One individual was not a member of the program when the accusation was made. There we go. So, yes, the kid wasn't a part of the program when the accusation was made. He was only 16 when the accusation was made. You still gave him a scholarship. You still recruited him. You knowingly put him on the team. This same player made a racial slur during the NFL draft on Instagram Live. This is not a model citizen. What you do in these moments, if you're a university and you give a shit about ethics and you have any type of backbone, you find a different recruit. There are hundreds, if not thousands of players across the country. You say, that one guy right there, we don't need that mess. Nah, we're good. He was 16 and accused of a sexual assault crime on our campus, while visiting our campus, underage drinking, breaking curfew, while visiting our campus. Nah, we don't need that guy. Let's go get somebody else. Anybody else. Just go pick a different guy. But they didn't do that. That's wisdom right there, not greed. Wisdom versus greed. You just don't do it. You know, if you had a girlfriend, you're trying to date a girl, and you found out she cheated on her last boyfriend, you might say to yourself, I probably shouldn't wifey that one. Or you found out she had a train ran on her at 16 years old at her own, and she was the one, and she put it on Instagram. and she just went out and told the world she wanted to do this, I'm probably not going to do it. Probably not wifey material. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to think to yourself, I probably don't want that one. When you come across a young man who's making poor decisions at 16, I probably don't want him at 18. Maybe somebody else. I'm just saying. Nonetheless, Georgia University saying, hey man, he made all those mistakes before he put on our uniform, so it's not our fault. It's not our fault. I'm not going to name the recruit. You need to just come over to YouTube. You can put it in chat over here. We got you. Nonetheless, one individual was not a member of the program. County police investigated the allegation to determine the activity was consensual, and the individual was never charged. The second individual was suspended immediately when the program learned of the sexual assault allegation. Okay? And his college career ended without ever playing another down, even though to this day, he has not been convicted and remains innocent until proven guilty. Once again, Georgia's standard for disowning a person is they have to be guilty in court. There are universities that have much higher standards. Shout out to UCF. Justin Hodges did a robbery with a gun. It was caught on camera. Charges were dropped. He's innocent. He attends Ole Miss right now. But UCF said, nah, we saw the CC footage. We saw the CCTV footage. We know what he did. He admitted to bringing the gun. He slapped that guy in the face with it. Nah, we're good. We're going to expel him from school. He can go pursue education elsewhere. Georgia didn't do that. Not per se. No, Georgia has this rule where, they're innocent until proven guilty, bro. Right? Jalen Kitna was found to have underage photos on his phone. If you guys don't know, 2 of the photos were of 16-year-old girls that he took when he was in high school. Kids were passing each other photos back and forth, nude photos. He was 16, they were 16. He kept the photo. He knew the girl when they were both 16. He's now 18, 19 years old at Florida University, and he has a picture of this girl that he used to know from high school, and he shares it. Dumb thing to do. Is that child pornography? No. Is he guilty of any crime? Well, he pled guilty. He got a plea deal. Pled guilty to breach of peace. Breach of peace. It's a misdemeanor, 6 months probation. He's not a terrible criminal. He's not doing child pornography. He's not doing anything wrong. Guess what? Florida does not care. Florida kicked him out of the university. Innocent until proven guilty, kicked him out. He's in the transfer portal right now. I need people to understand that this particular case here, this is Adam Anderson. And when you remove a guy from the university off the accusation, as they say, that's fine. But in the article, what they talk about is that 8 players went to court to testify on his behalf, to serve as witnesses, testify on his behalf, rally for him to get back into school, right? They wanted him to take part in the pro day at Georgia. And now he didn't get to. Now the judge approved it. They applied, he got bail and was able to leave and be free that weekend so he can do his pro day. I think he did it like 1 or 2 days before Georgia's pro day or 1 or 2 days after, I can't remember. But at a local school. But he didn't get to join Georgia's pro day. But it was still up for debate. Go find the articles. They were still trying to find out, are we going to let him take part in our pro day or not? Georgia had the audacity to say, we're going to do this. It's cool, man. We're going to help this guy get to the next level. Now, they didn't do it. But it wasn't clear cut. As soon as he stopped playing and when he got kicked off the team, no, he was still lifting weights. It wasn't as clear as like, we want nothing to do with this guy. They didn't Reggie Bush him. They didn't ban him from the university and team facilities and all that. They didn't act like they didn't know him. They were still determining whether or not they're going to let him do pro day with them. Come on, guys, do some research. This is some terrible shit. This is a lack of standards. Now, Mr. Judd here, Mr. Judd bringing up numbers, I got problems with you, bro. I got beef with you. You cannot do that. Not where I'm from. No. So, the third player was immediately suspended and never played again for UGA after being charged with unlawful surveillance, not sexual assault, as Mr. Judd claims. So if Mr. Judd's made a claim there, Mr. Judd writes sexual assault. If that's incorrect, it also goes to a sports editor, copy editor, right? It goes into print. Somebody else proofreads it. Like 3 different people got to look at it. It's not just Judd. It's a lot of other people. How did they not catch that error if he got it incorrect? If he mislabeled that crime? Who's not reading into it? Or is it semantics? Do you consider sexual assault unlawful surveillance? I don't know. Now, obviously, it's not assault, even though the charges were ultimately dismissed. And that is everything to Georgia. Dismissing charges. If charges are dismissed, you get these people saying, well, then he's innocent. What are you doing? It's America until proven guilty. No, because charges were dismissed so many times over. I already told you, OJ is acquitted, bro. OJ's walking around right now playing golf. None of you are asking him on a date. None of you are asking him to watch your kids. He's infamous for a hell of a lot of other reasons, and it ain't running football or Hertz commercials. Okay? I'm telling you right now, when they say charges were dismissed, all that means is the district attorney, the prosecutor, doesn't think he can win the case in court or doesn't want to bring it to court. Is he or she an alumni? Are they a fan? They'll say, well, we don't have sufficient evidence. And then you have to look, well, who's gathering the evidence? Oh, detectives? Are they alumni? Because I know one detective said, my beloved Bulldogs. In the case of that one player, the 16-year-old player, he said, my beloved Bulldogs. He loves the Bulldogs. He's not going to, oh, you know what? Hey, sir, ma'am, I couldn't find enough evidence to charge this kid. It looks consensual to me, man. It looks good to me. I couldn't find. You guys got to understand. There's a process here. And you can insulate and protect these players by just influencing detectives, district attorneys. It'll never get to court. I don't want to question the integrity of judges because our entire country is based on that. Right? So it's not just police officers, it's not just detectives, but it's also attorneys. There's a person in charge of handling, and I'm sure it's in this article, there's a person in charge of handling things that go wrong at Georgia. When something goes wrong at Georgia, there's a guy that shows up at the jail. There's a guy who calls the courthouse and advocates for a change of venue or a change in fines and punishment and stuff. There's a guy for this. And his job is to serve as like the guardian to the players. That's how it's labeled. You ask me, he's just the Lincoln lawyer, man. He's just the money bagger. He's just the guy that's got to figure it out. Go grease the wheels. It's straight out of a movie. He's the cleaner. Shows up, let me clean up this mess, bro. We got to hide that body. The fixer. Yeah, he's that guy. There's a guy like that. He's going to be in here for sure. Because he's accused of going to the court and trying to talk him down off the fine. But you tell me how somebody can have 3 driving, infractions in a 3-month period and only get some tickets, but they crash into 5 cars? Everybody goes, well, have you ever sped on the freeway? I never sped and crashed into 5 cars and didn't get arrested and got charged with a speeding ticket. It's bananas. You know why Keely Ringo dropped in the draft? Ask yourself why Keely Ringo dropped in the draft. Because they pulled him over going 90 and a 45 twice in a week. Twice in a week. No regard for authority. But how do you keep getting out of that ticket? Like, how do you just talk it down? They're like, oh, it's cool. We just got a DUI. Jack Saint just got a DUI. Dylan just got a DUI, the wide receiver. Morissette. Like, how do these guys get DUIs? What's going on here? It's just another day. Nonetheless, these are hardly examples. There you go. These are hardly examples of players remaining on the team after being accused of violent encounters, quote unquote violent encounters with women, much less of a program rallying behind them. The program rallying behind them is 8 players showed up to court. That's program rallying behind them. And these are the cases that Mr. Judd describes as the most serious examples of his claim that the football program actively supports student athletes accused of abusing women. Maybe they don't actively support them, but it's definitely passive. It's definitely passive. There's no denying that. Perhaps most concerning is Mr. Judd falsely describing the third case in an effort to make it fit his narrative. In the article, Mr. Judd states, without qualification, quote unquote, a player charged with recording a sex act with an unconscious woman remain on the roster for a full season until he transferred. Now, in a subsequent media interview, Mr. Judd again referred to this case, claiming the player videotaped himself having sex with a woman who had passed out from drinking. quote unquote. In the same interview, he again referred to the player videotaping himself having sex with a woman, blacked out drunk. Mr. Judd then suggested that the player receive preferential treatment from the Athens Clarke County Police, saying that, quote unquote, strangely, the police did not charge him with sexual assault, even though the video shows that she had no idea what was happening, quote. So he claimed all this. Now here's Georgia's response to it. The AJC requested the police reports and underlying videos for this case, right, from the UGA Police Department under the Open Records Act. But the supplemental police reports have not yet been produced by the AJC, to the AJC. And the requested videos of the underlying sex acts are legally exempt from production because their release would violate the personal privacy rights of the complainant in the case. In other words, George is saying, we asked the cops for the video, they won't give it to us. So we know you don't have it. So how do you know this is true? Well, Judd's saying I'm an investigative reporter and I talk to the victim or I talk to other people. They're saying if Mr. Judd has obtained the videos or supplemental police reports for this case from some other source and has reviewed them, then he knowingly misrepresented their contents. If he has not seen the videos and supplemental reports, then his version of events is simply fabricated. Okay. So what is Georgia saying? Georgia's saying they already saw the reports? Because they can't. They can't say that. So they're saying we know he hasn't seen them, so he had to fabricate this. Well, you don't know if he hasn't seen them. This is where I got an issue with Georgia here. And I'm calling it down the middle. I got issue with AJC for making up a number like 11 if you don't have 11 guys. All right, that's a problem. Because I only count 3 in the article. I've done a lot of searches. I only found 3. I found a lot of DUIs. But sexual assault guys, I only found 3 that had sexual issues or women with issues with women. And those 3 were in the article. And the one about recording the girlfriend. She didn't know she was recorded. Does that mean she was unconscious or she was just unaware that the camera was there? Did she not know that it was going to be posted elsewhere? Because he did post it online. That's the revenge porn part. But there's no denying he did it. Why else did you kick him off the team, Georgia? Like, Georgia's sitting here, they're arguing semantics. They're saying, look, man, there's no way he saw this video. He had to have made up the whole thing. There's no way he saw this video. So you're not denying the video exists. You're not denying the conduct. You're just convinced that this reporter didn't see it. That's fucking wild to me, bruh. The audacity to say, this is crazy. This is nuts, if you ask me. The former player involved in the case was charged with unlawful surveillance for engaging in consensual sexual activity and recording it without consent. There we go. Just answer my own question. He recorded it without consent. As a result of the charge, this player was suspended from competition and never played a single down for the program. Fine. That doesn't mean he didn't lift weights. That doesn't mean he wasn't in the locker room, even though the unlawful surveillance charge was later dismissed. They're always later dismissed. You know why? Because he changed location. Because when he transferred, they just felt like not charging the young man. They wanted to let him keep going to school. Okay, I'm not going to drag his name out there, by the way. But the former player was never charged with sexual assault because, according to police reports, the videos depicted the complainant as engaged and responsive and actively participating in the sexual activity. All right, she wasn't unconscious is what they're saying. But they haven't seen the video either. Contrary to Mr. Judd's false claims, according to the supplemental police reports, the videos display consensual sex between the parties. All of this is documented in extensive detail in the supplemental police reports that Mr. Judd requested, but either has not reviewed or is misrepresenting. Now there's the problem. If Judd misrepresented this for his own narrative, bruh, start writing fiction. Okay? Alan Judd, investigative reporting is not for you. Start writing fiction. I promise you. I got beef with you right now. His repeated public assertions that the former player remained on the roster after being charged with recording a sex act with an unconscious woman are simply false. Yeah, I know. They removed him from the roster. Get it straight. They removed him from the roster online. That man was still at football practice. That man was still in the locker room. He was still lifting weights. He was a part of the team. And they said they wanted to ensure he could transfer in good standing. What? That man deserves nothing. Why did the university not just kick him out of school? Revenge porn? That's a crime, guys. That's a crime against women. Start respecting it. Given Mr. Judd's approach, it is telling that he leaves out his narrative. Mr. Judd's article fails to mention a matter that was publicized by AJC itself in 2019, right? And then they put his name in. Holloman dismissed from the team. They actually did an article on this, and he didn't. So the newspaper said the guy was dismissed from the team. He's saying he wasn't dismissed from the team. He wasn't, because he wasn't in the transfer portal until the spring, and he was still a part of Georgia football until then. Yeah, probably getting calls and recommendations from the coaching staff. Because when you transfer, one coaching staff calls the other coaching staff and says, hey, tell us about the guy. Might have got a glowing remark. They might have said, he got a bad rap. That guy didn't do nothing wrong. He's been cool with us, man. They might have. I'm not going to make up a narrative. I'm not Judd here. As reported by the AJC at this time, in the summer of 2019, the team's leading returning wide receiver was accused by a former girlfriend of physical assault her over a year earlier. According to police report, the victim did not want to pursue the case, and the player was never charged. There you go. The victim did not want to pursue the case, so the player was never charged. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. That's my biggest issue, guys. Everybody's up in arms. He wasn't charged. He's not innocent. Somebody still got hit. She just didn't want to testify. You guys get what I'm saying? That's why there's abused women all over this damn country right now who don't want to testify. They're in abusive relationships and won't turn the guy in. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means we can't charge him because you ain't talking. Shout out to Tina Turner. R.I.P. Nevertheless, within days of receiving the report and verifying its veracity, the team's leading returning wide receiver was immediately and permanently dismissed from the team. There you go. They did it right in this one instance. Everybody holds on to this like you'll never believe. Every Georgia fan in my comments goes, what about Hallman? What about Hallman? They released him. They cut him from the team. He didn't get charged. They released it, and then they still cut him. They got the report. They said, whoa, he did this? We don't care that he wasn't charged. We're kicking him off the team. And that's what everybody wants you to believe. But let's flip that narrative, and let's apply it like this. They kicked their leading receiver off the team a couple years ago, back in 2019. And here we are in 2023, and instead of kicking him off the team, they let him stay. They learned from their mistakes. They said, no, we don't need to kick him off. He hasn't been charged yet. We jumped the gun too early last time. We kicked him out when he wasn't charged. Let's not do that anymore. You see the inconsistency here? This is my biggest issue with the whole thing. Is Georgia wants you to hold on to this little story here. This little nugget of greatness where they kicked a guy off the team when the charges were dropped. They still kicked him off the team. Well, why do you do that this time? Why do you keep referencing that the player above, the charges were dropped, so they kept him on the team? Well, he was only 16. Why didn't you kick him off the team right away? Even though the charges were dropped, even though they said it was consensual, why didn't you get rid of him? That's the inconsistency with applying your own ethics. That's my beef with Georgia. Just so we're clear. Okay? AJC claims it was invested in extensive resources into the investigation and reporting of these issues. But UGA's prompt dismissal of a star player never charged with a crime, even though covered by the AJC at the time and therefore surely known by Mr. Judd after his extensive research, obviously did not fit Mr. Judd's narrative, and that strong on-field performance excuses bad off-field behavior. Surely a journalist truly committed the highest standards of truthfulness would have mentioned this incident. Okay, so George is saying, yo, bro, you work for the newspaper. You work for the newspaper. Why aren't you telling us the truth? Why aren't you telling us what we talked about? But this is why I'm better than Alan Judd, is I would have flipped that whole narrative. I would have said, look, you guys used to do the right thing. And now that you've won 2 national titles, you don't do the right thing anymore. You kicked Hallman off the team. Charges were dropped, you kicked them off the team. But now all of a sudden, you don't want to do any discipline to these guys because charges are being dropped. You regret kicking him off the team is the truth. You see the difference? This is why I'm better at this than these guys are. Because you couldn't then come back to me and refute anything. You couldn't then come back to me and ask for a retraction. I'm going to acknowledge you used to do the right thing. Kirby Smart, Georgia, you used to do the right thing in 2019. But magically, it's a whole new year now. It's a whole new world, 2 national titles, and now you can just let everybody do what they want to do. Charges were dropped, Rico. Stop it. Innocent until proven guilty. No. We used to do the right thing around here. That's my gripe. Athens County Clark Police Department interview. Mr. Judd's article extensively covers a matter involving a 16-year-old prospective student athlete. There it is. They name him, Jamal Jarrett. Accused of sexual assault during his recruiting visit. Mr. Judd questions the rigor of the Athens Clark Police Department investigating of this course. Remarkably friendly and more like a counseling session. Well, his claims in the video of the interview suggest criminal charges were never likely. This subjective assessment are based on two phrases totaling 8 words, both taken out of context from a 54-minute interview. I want to say one of those words is my beloved Bulldogs. Yeah, there it is. The words, my beloved Bulldogs, were uttered by the detective 22 minutes into the 54-minute interview. Okay, Mr. Judd describes the interview as remarkably friendly. Of course, where the detective investigating the sexual assault allegations spoke of my beloved Bulldogs. Sorry, guys, I went back and reread that. When Mr. Jarrett explained that the complainant had searched for him online and initiated contact with him after seeing him from a distance at the January 2022 National Championship Parade. Recalling the day of the parade and lamenting that he was required to be on duty that day, the detective noted sarcastically, one of my many Saturdays I had ruined working on behalf of my beloved Bulldogs. So what he's saying is the detective was being sarcastic because he had to miss one of his Saturdays due to his beloved Bulldogs. Okay. You shouldn't have said it, bro. You don't get to say my beloved Bulldogs. Not during an interview about a sexual assault crime. Don't even show any type of favoritism or bias towards the school. And don't try to look at it in a negative light either. That's not going to work either, because then they might be like, well, he hated the Bulldogs and he was mad that he lost his Saturdays. See where I'm going with this? That small talk is not necessary. At the conclusion of the article, Mr. Judd returns to his criticism of the Athens Police Department, claiming the video suggests criminal charges were never likely. At the time of the interrogation, seemed more like a counseling session, the article continues. I'm looking out for you, Schmidt told Jarrett. No matter how this plays out, I think there's a lot you can learn from it. That's what the police officer told. The detective told that to Jarrett. I'm looking out for you. No matter how this plays out, I think there's a lot you can learn from it. Sorry, Ash is chewing on her toy right now. This quote might support the false narrative, but the detective did not say these words as presented by Mr. Judd. The actual quote, which occurred at 39:40 of the interview, is quote unquote, and I'm not trying to overstep my role or get in your personal business, but no matter how this plays out, I think there's a lot you can learn from this. So, one thing I told you guys at the very beginning from all of this, we do not truncate quotes. We do not cut quotes in the newspaper business. As a sports writer, as a journalist, when you give your story to your editors, as we cut down the story to make it fit in the paper or to fit your narrative, we'll never change a quote. Never, ever, ever change a quote. Remember that, guys. If you're ever going to abbreviate or truncate a quote, you put 3 little dots, ellipses, and you let people know there was words before this. So saying, I think there's a lot you can learn from this, you had to put the dots in there. That's why they put it in italics. You have to put the dots in there because there's something, you have to say, hey guys, there was words before this. And sometimes you can take a break in the middle of a quote. You can put the beginning of the quote, ... and then put the end of the quote. But what you don't get to do is just delete portions of the quote. Nah, that not from an editor. So this is intentionally done by Mr. Judd to feed his false narrative. I don't think he needed to. I think he could have put that quote in there and it would have been straight. If you said, but no matter how this plays out, I think there's a lot you can learn from this. Well, what is there a lot to learn from? I didn't commit a crime. The words "I'm kind of looking out for you" occurred 6 minutes earlier in the interview in a completely different context. You cannot quote for 6 minutes straight and go back to it. Now, give me the context of "I'm looking out for you." The full context of that statement does not remotely support Mr. Judd's suggestion that he was giving the suspect preferential treatment. Instead, the full context of that statement came as the detective warned Mr. Jarrett not to contact the complainant. So he said, I'm looking out for you. Don't reach out to the victim. Don't do that shit. That could be victim intimidation. I'm sure that's where it was coming here. Says, and this one of those things that goes without saying, but I wanted to say it. Not a good idea if you have any contact with her moving forward. Everyone's on the same page there, right? It's not going to. It's just going to. It's not going to do anything to help you. And it could make things more complicated or worse for you. And that's, I'm kind of looking out for you in the context of this case, but also outside of this case. Just as you know somebody the age of your parents, because it's like mom said, I don't even know what's going on here. I'm reading a quote, guys. It doesn't make sense to me. For the report, she's the victim, you're the suspect. But she is older, and there's some issues going on. It's just, like I said, people are complicated, and there's just all kinds of trouble that can come from that. Now, look, guys, I'm reading this whole paragraph of quotes, and I just told you, when you abbreviate quotes, and you want to talk about one thing and cut to another, we put 3 dots for an ellipsis. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what we do. They did it here in this very professional letter. It's like I know what I'm talking about. It's insane, okay? No objective person would interpret that statement as expressing preferential treatment for the suspect. I could agree with that. But Mr. Judd takes 5 words out of context, splices them together with an unrelated statement to suggest that the investigation was biased. Okay. Do I think the investigation was biased? Yes. Yes. I think it was biased towards an underage kid. You can constantly read in there where they say, she's older than you, you know how this is going to look, come on, keep it cool, you keep it down, you're a kid, stay out of trouble. All this shit, you're looking out for the kid. You're not looking at it like he's the assaulter, he's the aggressor. You're convinced he's a kid, so he's got to be trusted, and we got to look out for him because that's an older person. She's preying on him. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Do I think that's right? I don't. I don't think that's right. I think when it comes to situations like this, you got to look at it. That's a 6-year-old kid. Yeah, he's still 6'3", 300 pounds. This girl is 5'5", 130. Like, what are we talking about? You feel me? She's bigger, but you get my point. Like, at some point, you just got to look at somebody and go, yeah, you are big enough to commit this crime. I don't care how old you are. You're big enough to commit this crime. You're big enough to get ass whooping, bro. Just letting you know. No, okay, back to this. In any event, Mr. Judd's subjective characterization of the interview is believed by the video itself. This was a 54-minute interview of a 16-year-old who had been accused of sexual assault by a 20-year-old who had initiated contact with him, booked a room at his hotel, and acknowledged engaging in consensual sex with him. Mr. Jarrett was not under arrest. The interview was voluntary, and he was not represented by counsel. So of course they were nice, right? Nevertheless, before the interview even began, they took his cell phone. At the outset of the interview, the detective gave Mr. Jarrett his Miranda warning. In the interview, the detective repeatedly challenged Mr. Jarrett's account, asking him several times to reconcile his version of events with the complainant's accusations. The detective reminded Mr. Jarrett that they had possession of his phone and would examine it forensically, admonishing him that it would be problematic if his account was inconsistent with the evidence on the phone. The detective took buccal swabs in his mouth, right, of his cheeks, and he explained to Mr. Jarrett that further investigation and criminal charges were possible. Sounds like they were taking the gloves off and trying to get him to, they're flexing on him. I've seen First 48. You know the deal, guys. They come in looking, aggressive and everything, and after a while they looked at each other and said, man, I don't think this kid did anything. I think he's good. Notwithstanding Mr. Judd's insinuation that a police interview of a 16-year-old in this context should be hostile or confrontational, his use of 2 out-of-context phrases is as remarkably friendly is simply wrong. So not fabricated, but wrong is what they're saying. Okay. Rallying for Adam Anderson. This is the one, guys. How do you rally for Adam Anderson? How do you go to court for Adam Anderson? How? How do you okay this? Kirby Smart, well, they were his friends. They were just being witnesses. They were there to rally. No, I think they were asking for bail. I think they went to court to ask for bail. Let's make sure. I want to make sure if I remember correctly. It had to be a bond hearing, right? Mr. Judd's other example in support of his assertion, that the UGA football program, quote-unquote, rallies for players accused of abusing women concerns a bond hearing for a former player, Adam Anderson. A group of football players voluntarily chose to attend Mr. Anderson's bond hearing. Now, everybody goes to a bond hearing voluntarily. What they're saying is they weren't ordered to go. That's why they say voluntarily. They weren't ordered to go by Kirby Smart or the coaching staff. They went on their own. Cool. While the players' motives for attending are their own, once again, they're distancing themselves from this action. Because they know for a flying fucking fact right now, if you as a university, coaches and everybody, rallied to show good standing and sent a bunch of guys to the courtroom to try to show the judge, hey, he's a good guy, we can vouch for him, he's a great teammate, and they're going to go speak on his behalf. If you organized that or orchestrated that in any way, you're done. That's what this is really coming down to. You're done if you did that, okay? And they know this. So they're writing this in a way to distance themselves from the actions the players took that day. Now, maybe it's true. Maybe the players did it all on their own. Maybe they all say, yo, we're ride or die, man. Our guy's in jail right now. We got to go. Or maybe Georgia sat down and said, hey, guys, Adam's got court tomorrow. I hope you guys can go down there. Hey, put on some nice suits, man. Tuck in your shirt. Go down there and speak on his behalf, and maybe we can get him some bail. Just maybe. Anyways, a group of players voluntarily went down there. While the players' motives are attending are their own, they did so in their private capacities as friends and teammates. On November 15th, shout out to that, 2 days before the hearing, Mr. Anderson's lawyer, Steve Sadow, had emailed me as the university's general counsel to respectfully request on Adam's behalf that UGA allow any player who wants to support Adam Anderson to attend the hearing. I responded in writing to Mr. Sadow. The decision to participate in legal proceedings is completely up to the student athletes, subject to their academic, athletic, and other obligations. Our only role would be sharing information to help them make that individual decision. In other words, they know there's email traffic. They know it's there. So now they have to admit it. They have to admit that Adam Anderson's attorney did reach out to the school and ask for support. And the school said, we're going to let them know about it. We'll let them know about it, and if they're free, they can go. We're not going to tell them to go, but we're going to let them know about it. So even if the players didn't know, they made sure they knew. That's problematic for me, guys. That's not okay. This tells me that you got an email from the attorney, and as a university, all you got to do is write back to the attorney and go, yeah, they can attend. Not, our role will be to share information to make sure that they can make the individual decision. What? That's not your role. Your role is not to inform them when a player's going to court. That is not your role. What you could say is, hey, they're free to do whatever they want to do. Not our role is to share information with them. That's, to me, guys, once again, that's a piece of shit organization. That screams, we want you guys to know about this court case. Make sure you show up in good standing and show solidarity. Make sure that you tell the judge he's an upstanding individual and a part of society and all this other good shit. Like, that screams to me, we're implicit in this. I'm with Judd on this one here. I'm with Judd on this one just off that response alone. They are trying to marginalize what they said they'd be willing to do, and more importantly, they've been distancing themselves from the players the whole time. You represent the players. You represent the university. They're still members of the university. He says it right there. I responded, right? He has an obligation. This guy who wrote this article, this university's general counsel, why are you concerned? University's general counsel, why are you concerned with the Adam Anderson case? He's not a part of the university anymore. He's kicked off the team. Right? Come on now. Why are you concerned with him? He's not on the team anymore. Nevertheless, Mr. Judd claims in the article that Mr. Anderson's lawyer, Steve Sadow, said he had secured Smart's blessing through the university's chief lawyer. I believe so. I believe so. That email tells me, hey, we're going to let them know when the court case is. We'll make sure they know, and if they're available, they'll be there. That's what that email tells me. I've been down this road, guys. Trust me, I've had many soldiers go to court, being court-martialed, being punished, and whenever they want to bring in, we do Article 15 hearings in the Army. I'm a senior leader in the military, by the way. And when I see these people come in, they tell me, oh, yeah, I hit my wife, or I had a DUI, or I did this wrong, and they're full of tears. And then we say, all right, you have any witnesses on your behalf? And there's a whole line of dudes out there. And they come in one at a time, they read me their paper, and they say, he was a great teammate, he's a great partner, I've known him for 4 years, he would never do this, he's got to feed his 3 kids, da-da-da-da-da. And I just sit there and I just go, man, I need to make a decision for the good of the Army, not for the good of the soldier. I don't care that he's about to lose his job. I don't care. No. This man almost killed somebody. He's out of here. Because I care about the good of the organization. Because my job, what I've been charged to do, is improve this organization. Make decisions on behalf of the entire organization. That's how I think. So when I watch this and I see that this general counsel for the university said, yeah, man, we're gonna let them know. They'll be there. Don't worry about it. They'll be there. That could equate to, yeah, you got your blessing. That could equate to you got your blessing. No, but he says, but Mr. Sadow never said this. Right? Now, how do they know Mr. Sadow never said this? How do they know? In fact, the transcript of the bond hearing does not contain the evocative words bless or blessing. It only contains one reference to Coach Smart in which Mr. Sadow asked the judge if players could be excused from the hearing to return to team activities pursuant to my promise to Coach Kirby Smart. So once again, semantics. Was it a promise to Coach Smart or was it a blessing? Well, they did have a conversation. Mr. Sadow, Steve Sadow, that's Anderson's lawyer, he did have a conversation with Kirby Smart. He brought it up into court. There's no way around it. And he said it right there. I need, pursuant to my promise to Coach Kirby Smart. You start throwing around the millionaire's name in the courtroom, Coach Smart, you're going to get a lot of pull and a lot of weight. So that attorney says, hey, can we get the players out of here? I made a promise to Coach Smart they'd get back. Come on now. You can say it was blessing one time, but to get in the court, the attorney said, promise. Come on now. People change words from week to week. I'm not with the university on this one at all. None of those players should have been there, and if they were there, they should have never been informed by the university to go there, or when the date time was, or any of that shit. That's not how you get there. That's not how it's done. You cannot support your teammate in this regard, and it'd be okay. No effing way will I ever be okay with the university claiming, well, we just sent an email and said, we don't know, we'll inform them. That's our job. Our role is to just share information. No, it is not. Your role is to represent members of the university. And Adam Anderson was not a part of the university anymore. So why are you even involved in any way, shape, or form with him? He has his own attorney, and that's Mr. Sadow. It's bullshit, guys. Likewise, the hearing transcript contains only one reference to university's legal counsel. Excuse me. In his closing argument, at the conclusion of the bond hearing, Mr. Sadow referred to the dozens of individuals who attended in support of Mr. Anderson's request for bond. Because there was dozens of individuals that showed up. Dozens of players. These people are here not because they want him to play football. They're here because they know him. They've known him for years and years and years. Mr. Sadow then specifically referred to Mr. Anderson's teammates, making crystal clear that the decision to attend was solely their own. Why is there such an emphasis to let everybody know that it's solely their own to show up here? Why? When I see an email where this guy, the general counsel, said, we'll make sure that our role would be sharing information with those individuals. If it's solely their own, then where are they getting the information from? If it was solely their own, they would have did their own information. They would have done their own information. They would have done their own. They didn't need their own general counsel to tell them when to go to court. Hey, just so you guys know, Adam's going to be in court tomorrow if you guys want to show up and support him. That's not solely your own anymore. That's somebody provided you with information. If it was solely your own, you could have went to the practice and be like, yo, guys, I was reading online. Adam's got court tomorrow. We should probably go. Huge difference. When you have influential members, adults, lawyers, show up to the locker room and go, hey, guys, just so you know, we might need a dozen of you to think about this. But you guys can go if you want to go. We just want to let you know. There's going to be court tomorrow. Adam's going to court. It would look really cool if you guys went. It's on you. You decide if you want to go or not. Just letting you know. It's out there. Think about it. All right, go. That's not solely on your own. No way. That is influencing kids. I had to communicate with general counsel for the University of Georgia in order to make certain that the players would be free to come in here and testify or be present. This was not forced upon them. These individuals chose to be here voluntarily. Emphasis added. Okay, so they chose to be there voluntarily. They're free. They were only coordinating back and forth. And remember, these are two attorneys. They know how it's going to look. So they go into court and they address it in their closing remarks. Adam Anderson's attorney gets it on the record. Why does it even need to be said? because this shit was going to come out. Got it on the record. Hey, guys, just so you know, I did coordinate with that attorney from the school. I did coordinate with the attorney that represents all these players here, but it was just to ask if they could come and be here freely on their own volition, whatever he said. Bruh, what are you doing? Those players, if they wanted to be there, they would have asked their own attorney, hey, can we go to that court? Can we go there on his behalf? That's them wanting to go there. But when you initiate the contact, you are influencing them to go there. These guys, they think they're slick. They're not slick. Adam Judd, though, this dude, Alan Judd, I'm sorry, not slick if you're making all this shit up. Just call it like it is, bro. Just write it and let people interpret it, right? I'm sitting here interpreting this. I'm an intelligent individual. I've been in this world. I know what's going on here. Why can't you just let people interpret it for what it is, Mr. Judd? Mr. Judd, why'd you write lies, bro? Why did you fabricate so they can now question your integrity and your credibility? Because now I can't believe shit you say, right? Once you catch a girl lying to you, you're in a relationship, she lies to you about one thing, you want to hear shit she got to say, bro? Where you been? Oh, who's that? You just a friend? Was he Biz Marquee? Man, nah, I ain't got no questions for you from here on out. We're done. We're done. We ain't coming back from this. It is what it is. We ain't coming back from this. I'm going to call you sprung because I knew you in the past tense, right? Spring, past tense, sprung. My bad. I got it wrong. Anyways, as the record makes clear, and now they're making reference to the record. As the record makes clear, the decision to attend the hearing was purely a personal decision for the players, and it would have been inappropriate and perhaps unconstitutional for Coach Smart or any athletic association official to either encourage or discourage the players and staff from exercising their personal rights to express their views in this matter on behalf of either party. Very important, they put it out here. It would be unconstitutional and inappropriate if Coach Smart or any athletic association official influenced the players. But you know who he doesn't list in there? The council, the general counsel, the attorneys for Georgia. They're the ones who influence the players by letting the players know they're welcome to go to the courtroom tomorrow. By letting the players know, by keeping them informed, as he said up here, my role is to keep them informed. Our only role would be sharing information to help them make individual decisions. That right there, that role is what influenced them, not the coaches, not the athletic association. When you're a player and you get called into a meeting and then an attorney goes up there to inform you, that's the guy that influenced you. So yeah, this is smoke and mirrors here. Mr. Judd claims that Mr. Sadow said that he had secured Coach Smart's blessing through general counsel. Did I already read that? I apologize. Oh, no, I didn't. Mr. Judd's claim that Mr. Sadow said he had secured Coach Smart's blessing, quote unquote, through general counsel for the players' attendance is inaccurate. And his suggestion that a purely personal decision by the players and a staff member to attend the teammates' bond hearing illustrates an entire football program rallying behind individuals accused of violence against women is even more irresponsible. So, once again, we only had a dozen guys go. It wasn't the whole team. How dare you say this? Only one coach was there, not all the coaches. Why was any coach there? Why were any, that's what people don't understand. Is the school is saying, he's saying the whole team rallies behind these guys, but that's irresponsible. They said it's irresponsible. They didn't say it's inaccurate. They said it's irresponsible. You tell me what's irresponsible. I'm just letting you guys know. Mr. Judd's article also claims that the university assisted Mr. Anderson by responding to a lawful subpoena for records. Well, Mr. Judd cites an executive director from the Cleary Center for the proposition that federal law requires schools to keep such records confidential. But Mr. Judd fails to mention that applicable federal law contains an exception for records responsive to a lawful issued subpoena. And the university therefore had no basis to withhold the documents. Now maybe that's just Mr. Judd not knowing the law. That one's a lawyer thing. So Judd claimed, hey, they weren't supposed to give out this information. Obviously this attorney's doing attorney speak. He's like, bro, we got subpoenaed. We had to give up the records. What are you talking about? So he's obviously informed on this. Judd isn't. Does Judd have any attorneys proofreading his paperwork? Probably not. I'm going to chalk this one up to Mr. Judd being uninformed on subpoenaed records. It's a mistake. That is a retraction-worthy mistake right there. That's the first one I've seen. The rest of this other shit is just banter back and forth between two parties and hating each other. But that one right there to me is legitimately a retraction-worthy thing. Mr. Judd, you got it wrong. We had to give up the records. Federal law generally prohibits schools from producing student educational records, but contains an express exception for disclosure to comply with lawful issued subpoenas. There you go. As long as the university makes a reasonable effort to notify the student in advance, blah, blah, blah. In this case, the university received a lawfully issued subpoena from Mr. Anderson's counsel, his lawyer, for student education records. They wanted to prove he was a good student. As required by federal law, the university provided written notice to the student and did so well in advance to the subpoena's deadline. The student's lawyer filed a motion to quash the subpoena, but not until the day of the deadline. I don't know what the fuck that's about. And therefore, the judge had not ruled on the motion by the time the university was required to produce the documents. Out of an abundance of caution and respect for the student's privacy rights, rather than producing the documents directly to the requesting party, this is called CYA, cover your ass, as the university was arguably required to do, the university instead tendered the documents to the court to hold until it could rule on the motion. Very smart move by attorneys at Georgia. What Georgia's saying is we didn't want to mess up this case, we didn't want to get in trouble, so instead of giving it to his attorney, we gave it to the judge, and we let the judge decide whether or not they had the right to get it, and once they said they did, then the judge went ahead and gave them the education records. We didn't give it to them directly. This is cool. This is getting stolen property from a third party. It doesn't put it in your hands. It's like when you sell drugs. Man, toss me the money, you go get your product around the corner, not from me. I can't do all of it at once. I'm cool with it. This retraction-worthy shit all day long. Okay? Although the university had no legal basis to refuse to comply with a valid subpoena, and the article does not cite one, because he probably didn't know, Mr. Judd nevertheless mischaracterizes this episode as an example of the university's willingness to assist an athlete facing criminal charges. Here's what it looked like to Mr. Judd in his narrative. The school was passing education records around trying to sell this kid as a good kid. Trying to paint him in a good light. Judd, you're wrong in that regard. You're reaching, bruh. You're reaching. We don't need that shit, Judd. You're reaching. Comparisons with prior head coach. Mr. Judd attempts to draw a distinction between the treatment of these issues under Coach Smart and prior head coach Mark Richt. And the word on the street is Mark Richt was more strict with these things, and Kirby Smart's letting it slide. Now, I'm going to tell you, Kirby Smart's been letting it slide for about 2 years now. Not the whole time. Obviously, he did it right in 2019, but he ain't done it right recently. That's what I'm saying. Nonetheless, let's go back. As support, Mr. Judd claims Coach Richt routinely dismissed players accused in sexual or domestic assaults, including 2 in a single offseason. But Mr. Judd provides no comparison between the number of players dismissed from the team under either coach. He didn't do the research. He doesn't have the data out there. He doesn't know how many have done it, who's done what right or wrong. He also assumes that without any basis, that fewer dismissals would be indicative of more lenient discipline as opposed to fewer incidents. Very true. Okay. Mr. Judd provides no factual basis for his suggestion that the program's priorities under Coach Smart are skewed, quote unquote skewed, compared to the previous coach, or that the program under either coach failed to address these issues decisively and appropriately. I'm going to tell you guys right now, for me, when I read this, I told you the only way to win this argument is to say that Coach Smart used to do it right in 2019 and he doesn't do it right anymore. It's the only way you're winning this. Right now, this just is lazy reporting is what that is. It's not really retraction worthy, it's lazy reporting. Previous examples of bias and inaccurate reporting. Unfortunately, while this is the most egregious of Mr. Judd's biased and inaccurate reporting, it's not his first. Holy shit. On February 24th, 2023, Mr. Judd reported sensationally that a star football player for the University of Georgia allegedly led a police officer on a high-speed chase through Athens on January 10th. In fact, police records in the AJC's possession show that he alleged pursuit occurred on the bypass outside of Athens, not through the campus. The student athlete was not aware that he was being pursued, and at no point was the officer directly behind the vehicle with his lights or sirens activated. Hardly a high-speed chase through campus. Yeah, that's clickbait. That's clickbait, Judd. Judd, that's clickbait, bruh. You're out of here. On March 14, 2023, Coach Smart held a press conference before spring practice. It was attended by AJC journalists, including Mr. Judd. Okay, Mr. Judd is meeting these dudes face to face. He's on campus. The audacity. Coach Smart referred to the expectations we have here at Georgia for our student athletes, saying certainly we haven't met some of these requirements. No shit. Later, in response to a question from Mr. Judd about control and supervision of the program, Coach Smart stated, our guys do make mistakes. Our jobs as coaches is to prevent that from happening. Now, there's those 3 ellipses or 4 of them. So there was something more said in there, in the quote, by the way. It's a longer quote. Our job as coaches is to prevent that from happening, and that starts with me. Nevertheless, immediately after the press conference, Mr. Judd tweeted, in press conference, #UGA, Coach Kirby Smart accepts no responsibility for a series of transgressions that culminated in the death of player and recruiting staffer. Okay. Bananas, bruh. Maybe you misheard him. Or maybe he's blatantly lying. That one, Judd. How does that even get away, bro? How do you even get away with this? That's bananas, bro. You know, when we used to interview people, so we didn't misquote you, we had those tape recorders. And I know people record with their cell phones, right? You just record the video so you don't get it wrong, and then you can go play it back. We used to have tape recorder. I used to be in the locker room and doing interviews with a tape recorder. Because when you do shorthand on your pad of paper after the game, you'd go down and you'd ask them a question. Sometimes you get back to the office and you'd be like, man, what was that quote? What did I write? And you might get the quote wrong because you couldn't even read your own writing because you were writing so fast while you were doing your own stat sheet, keeping your own stats all night. Man, you guys don't know. Being a sports writer has always been tough. But nowadays, I mean, how fucking hard is it? You can record the whole game and go back and do all the stats yourself and get it right and do interviews. And man, what the hell? This guy. On March 31st, 2023, Mr. Judd reported that the director of player support, Brian Nant. Oh, guys, this is the guy. This is the fixer right here. Bryant Gant, right? Bryant Gant intervened, quote unquote, on behalf of UGA athletic staff member concerning a speeding ticket in Morgan County. Okay. The article claimed Mr. Gant asked Morgan County traffic clerk to amend the ticket to indicate LaCroix was driving only 14 over the speed limit. Oh. That's a fixer. Hey, I know he's super speeding. Can we get that down to 14? Bro, when I emailed the clerk to ask if this report was accurate, she responded in writing, that's very inaccurate, saying she was very upset by Mr. Judd's false accusations. The clerk explained that Mr. Gant's question was one she gets frequently, whether the staffer was eligible for a defensive driving course to reduce the amount of the fine or the points as expressly provided by Georgia law. She said the interaction was brief, Mr. Gant did not attempt to influence her in any way, and she found nothing inappropriate about the interaction. Even when the university provided the clerk's denials to AJC, the AJC refused to correct Mr. Judd's report. Mr. Judd must have some real pull over there, bruh. That's some ballsy shit, bro. Whew. On June 11, 2023, the AJC ran a story co-authored by Mr. Judd entitled, Out of Control, Reckless Culture, Off-Field, blah, 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 blah. The article includes quotes from a former Athens-Clarke County detective solicitor about Mr. Gant's role assisting student athletes in resolving traffic violations. Yeah, Mr. Gant's got that role, bruh. Somebody gets pulled over, he's the guy they call. In an unsolicited email to Mr. Gant after the story ran, the former deputy solicitor stated that all my direct quotes were taken completely out of context and used in a tone negative to you and the athletic association. This was not at all the tone of my conversation with the reporter. She said she told the AJC that many of these guys were far away from home, where local kids would have their parents support through the court process. Many of these kids do not, and that was the role you helped fill. A surrogate parent. Yeah, that's exactly what Gant does. These players don't have their parents near campus. They're from all over the country, all out of town. They don't have parents nearby. They're still kids, right? They're still young. They get pulled over, arrested for the first time. They don't know how to deal with this stuff. They have somebody there. This guy Gant can come in and speak on behalf of you like your parents. You would call your mom and dad to get you out of jail, right? Who do you call when you get locked up? Who do you call? I can remember I was a kid. My girlfriend got in a fight. My girlfriend got in a car accident one day. I caused the car accident, by the way. I was borrowing my mom's car. She drove a 4Runner. And my girlfriend was in a little Honda Civic. And we were messing around in a parking lot, weaving and doing all kinds of shit. And I blocked her way to get out. And she went around me really fast. And another car was just flying by down the road and crashed into her on the front end. It was terrible. And we were so distraught after the car accident. I remember I drove away really fast because I didn't want to be blamed for the accident. I drove to a payphone, right? Old school. I drove to a payphone. I called 911. I said, there's been an accident. I told them where it was, and then I hung up the phone and drove away. And I thought they could trace the call, and they were going to come get me and all kinds of shit. So later that day, we go to the mall to go apply for jobs. Back in the day, you had to go apply for jobs. And we were walking through all the stores, every store in the mall, asking for applications. Because we needed money now. We just caused the car accident. We got to pay for this, right? So we're getting our jobs now, and we're going through. I might have been 16, 17 years old. And we're writing, and we're doing all these applications. And I walk past this guy at the mall, this little guy. Turns out he was 19 years old, and he might have been like 5'7", 5'8". And he looks at me and he goes, "What up, bitch?" Like that. And I was like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "Yo, what's up, man?" And he goes, "Yeah, you kicked my car last night." Now, it's a Saturday. I don't know this dude. I don't know what he's talking about, but I got an identical twin brother. So I put it together. My brother might have kicked in this dude's car door at a party somewhere. And this guy's like, "Yeah, it's on now." He's saying all this shit to me. And I'm like, "Hey, bro, you got the wrong guy. You got beef with my twin brother." But it wasn't me. I'm with my girl. I'm cool. And then he goes, "Well, you let him know when I see him, I'm going to kick his ass." And I remember thinking, nah, you're not going to kick my brother's ass, and you don't get to say this. That's not how we get down. So I get a little closer to the guy, and I said, "Is that what you think?" And I said, "Listen, man," and I keep talking with my hands and just clock him. And it's an amazing feeling, right, to feel a body just crumble in front of you. Now he tries to get up a little bit. I grab his little dude, and I throw him over the railing. We're on the second story of a mall. Upstairs, there's downstairs. I just throw him over the railing. Just let him fall. I don't care. It's a scrap. We're scrapping for real, bro. I'm from the hood. Like, you can't talk to me like this. Throw him over the railing, and then these security guards come over. And this is when I learned the mall is on private property. They're not even police officers. Security guards come over, and they pepper spray me, which, by the way, doesn't feel great. They pepper spray me. They miss my face. They actually get me on the forearm here. And then they arrest me, and they take me to the back of the mall. And they take pictures of me, and they do all this shit. And I'm back there. Guys, I'm a minor. This is an adult. They call the sheriff's department for the adult who just got thrown over the railing and beat up. For me, all they do is call my parents. They call my dad. And he lived, he was in a city over. I was about 20 minutes away from home. So he comes over to get me, but I get banned from the mall for a year. But I had my father talk to them and figure everything out. I didn't know what I was going to say or do. It didn't matter. My point is when you're a kid at this young age and you make poor decisions and you get in trouble and you get arrested and handcuffed and fingerprinted and all this shit, you don't know what to do. The Georgia players don't know what to do, so they call Mr. Gant to come help them. They don't have their parents nearby, right? It's not like if you're a local player and your parents live down the street. These guys are coming from all over the country. So yeah, Mr. Gant's that person. Just wanted to share that with you. Sorry for the tangent and the random story. Just wanted to get that out there. Nonetheless, this was not at all the tone of my conversation. I told him you're a surrogate parent. I told him it was not uncommon for other UGA students to come to the court with their parents and for parents to call and email me about their child's case. And that was your role you filled for the football players. She concluded, "I'm truly sick to my stomach that my attempt to show you in a more positive light was twisted into something negative. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. The reporter clearly made every effort to frame the article in a way that made the entire athletic department look bad." All right, Judd, not cool, bruh. Yes, I called him the fixer. But if he's just out there and he's serving in a parent role and he's not doing anything crazy, if he's advocating for driver's ed instead of a ticket, we all do that, right? We all do that. You ever been to court to talk down your ticket? Maybe not. I don't know. Despite dedicating a quote-unquote team of reporters to investigate the crash for months, Mr. Judd contacted UGA for comment just one day before the story ran. Now that's chicken shit. That's chicken shit. They've been writing that story for weeks. And he only called them the day before it ran. Maybe he's lazy and didn't get it finished until the day before. We would call people and ask them for quotes all the time and ask them for, do you have a final statement? We're about to go into this. Was everyone okay in the accident? Stop that shit. Stop that. Somebody just wrote that in chat, got me distracted. All right, final page. Sorry we're so long-winded. We're still here, guys. Thanks for being here. Shout out to the 80 people or so who are watching. Shout out to those of you on TikTok who are watching. Move over to YouTube if you want to see the graphic and hang out with us. Excuse me. Athletic Association provided a statement and specifically requested that the AJC include the entire statement alongside the story. There you go. So, Judd reaches out to the university. Says, would you like to make a statement for this story? University makes a statement to the story. Mr. Judd, story included just 6 of the 18 sentences. So if they provide you with an 18-sentence story or statement, you only put 6? What? Bro, if they put 18 sentences in their statement, you quote them entirely. You don't truncate it. It's a website, bro. I get it. There's no room on the newspaper, on the printout on Sunday. But you can say for the full statement, go to this website link and blah, blah, blah. Or the webpage, you can definitely, you're not pressed for space there. You can put the whole fucking thing. You didn't put the whole thing in there? What the university had to say in response to your article? That's just shady, bro. That's not journalism. That's horseshit. I'm pissed about that, right? Omitting some of the most significant points, those that directly countered his preconceived narrative. I got beef with that. After the Athletic Association pressed again for the inclusion of its statement, the AJC appended a portion of the statement at the end of its online version. Like I just said, despite including just 6 of the 18 sentences from the Athletic Association statement, the AJC misleadingly described its excerpts as response from UGA Athletic Association, failing to note that the AJC had truncated the statement. In the Sunday print edition, the story appeared on the front page and carried over 2 full pages. That's a hell of a printout. But the AJC still refused to include the Athletic Association's entire statement as requested. All right, so what they're saying is we didn't get to say our part. Well, that's not a retraction, and that's not retraction worthy. What that is we need a follow-up story where you put their whole statement out there for everyone to read. That's all I'm saying. You feel me? Like, that's important. Conclusion. The AJC prominently touts its commitment to seek the truth and provide accountability of public institutions. It further proclaims, as journalists, we must earn the trust of our audience every day. Our professional integrity is the cornerstone of our credibility. Fairness and transparency must always be the hallmarks of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's journalism, quote unquote. Mr. Judd's most recent article falls far short of these standards. Absent the numerous and significant inaccuracies identified in this letter, there is simply no foundation for the central premise of his article, that the UGA football program actively supports players accused of abusing women. For the foregoing reasons, we demand the AJC's prompt, clear, and conspicuous retraction of this article. Sincerely, Michael Raber. All right, so it took me a while to read this whole damn article, exactly 92 minutes. Because I take breaks, I explain things, provide context, and I'm pretty enthusiastic about it. But let me give you guys my synopsis of what's going on here, just so everybody understands. Georgia University is saying, we're bad, but we ain't that bad. We made mistakes, but they weren't those mistakes. Nowhere in here am I convinced that Georgia doesn't value winning over everything else. You understand that? No matter what they say, that's how I feel. Now that I'm done reading, I'm going to go to the live chat here, and I'm going to start responding to your guys' questions. Let's have a conversation. Shout out to you guys for being here. If you're on TikTok and you got questions, comments, or concerns, all you got to do is move over to YouTube, and you can add into the conversation. Now, first thing I added the link to the Google Drive so you can get this document. This document is nowhere on any major website. They've either abbreviated, gave you a synopsis of it. They have not shown you the whole document. I'm here to share it with you guys because Rico knows, right? What's up, Rico? I know you want to talk about Georgia and the situation there, but can you please discuss the Northwestern debacle? Well, the debacle's simple. The student newspaper got that man fired after the school tried to sweep it under the bus. I would fire the president. I would fire the athletic director and anybody else who advocated for a 2-week suspension. Remember, a 2-week suspension pushed out to you're unemployed now, that's severe. It could have been a month. It could have been 2 months. But you bastards try to hide this and hide it in a 2-week suspension. It was a nothing story when I first saw it. It was a little blurb, one line, and I said, this doesn't make sense to me. This is not okay. In there it said, no substantiated, blah, 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 blah. Shut up. If there was nothing substantiated, then why did you suspend him in the first place? We knew something was there, and when there's smoke, there's fire. I got beef with Northwestern all the way around. Most definitely, thank you. I will type my questions on the podcast as it goes. Shout out to you, Pot of Coffee. Thank you for being here. Love Sosa. Hey, Rico, what did you think about Volk's performance? He's a feisty dude. He's talking about Volkanovski in the UFC. He's a mean SOB. Shout out to you. He's heavy. Also, I had no clue about this. You had no clue about Georgia? Well, here we are. Rico with the facts in black and white. Thank you very much, Pot of Coffee. I take pride in that stuff. Everyone hit the like button. I don't need to ask every day. Come on, man. Shout out to Willie Bobo. Good to see you. Yes, what Willie Bobo said. There are 30 people and only 6 likes. Let's go. Well, we're almost to 30 likes. We're getting there. The live is early today. AJ interviews, I had to jump on early because people started posting videos on TikTok and they don't have the document. They're just talking. They're reading the story and they're just talking. They don't have the real information and they don't know what's going on. I've done a ton of research on this. Like an absurd amount of research. So when people come at me and be like, read the police report. You didn't do any research. Yes, I did. I did an insane amount. Please stop. I've done more research over the last 20 years of Georgia football than you could imagine. I'm not even joking. How do things that are being alleged by Coach Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern go on for presumably 6 years in today's world with phone cams and social media? Well, Pot of Coffee, it's pretty simple. You normalize it. You normalize it. All it takes is one dirty joke to get a laugh at work, and then they'll all be allowed. Right? Have you guys ever thought about that? Like if you're at work and somebody says something slightly sexist, slightly racist, and then everybody laughs, well, then you can keep saying them. And then over time, they become the social norm, and it's okay. So you got to imagine the first time there was a naked bear crawl. How did that go down? Well, it was a laugh after it. It was okay. Nobody was shocked. Well, how did we get there? Well, maybe they were doing this bear crawl and this bear crawl. Maybe they were doing this initiation. You know, I don't know when it stops outside of a new regime, outside of new players and new regime. Whatever hazing and traditions were going on at Colorado before Coach Prime got there, they're gone. Because they have all new coaches and all new players. That's how you get rid of it. But over time, I'd imagine there are certain ritualistic, routine punishments within any organization that has prolonged leadership. Iowa, Kirk Ferentz, been there for a very long time. I'd imagine things there, you know, people go, yeah, I remember we used to run that hill. Yeah, man, we used to run those stairs. Hey, if you got in trouble, you had 3 laps and you had to run up that big mountain and you had to do, like, we know. But not all hazing is bad. Let me make this clear. Not all hazing is sexual assault. Not all hazing is degrading. I can remember in the Army, when I first joined the Army, I had a very long AIT, Advanced Individual Training. Now, I did over 20 years in the Army. And when I first started, I was at this Fort Huachuca, Arizona. It's this terrible base. And there was this building. We all lived in nice buildings. And then after a while, you go up the street a little bit. And what I mean is you live in one building, but after about 6 months, you get to go live in a different building. That first building had drill sergeants. Everybody could see everything you're doing. It was all very supervised. And then when you went to the building down the street, it was 3 stories, communal latrines. It was just kind of like the hood. It was a free-for-all. There was nobody supervising you. You got off of work. You just did what you wanted to do. There was barbecues going on. There was girls in the barracks. There was all kinds of shit. It was crazy. I was like, yo, what is it? It's a party? It looked like dorm rooms off the movies. It was insane. There was nobody to check in with. It was a free-for-all. You could just do whatever you wanted to do. And I can remember my first night. I was extremely stressed. And I already knew what happens when you move into those buildings. The first night, while you're unpacking all your stuff, I carried up all my stuff upstairs. Me and 2 of my buddies were carrying all of our stuff upstairs, 3 flights of stairs. We're sweating, we're tired, and it's like 8 p.m., 2000, and we get a knock on the door. Now, we had our door locked. We got a knock on the door, and I look through the peephole, and there's just a finger over it, and I go, oh, I know what that means. They're about to do something that they've been doing to everybody who moves into the building. They would get a chair, and they would duct tape you to the chair. And then they would carry you to the showers, and they would leave you in the showers, turn the water on really, really cold, and just make you sit in there. But I said, you guys can't do that to me. I'm too big for this. I'm kick everybody's ass. You're not doing this to me. I didn't open the door. I said, I'm not opening the door. They said, open the door. We want to help you unpack. not opening the door, man. I don't know you like that. Step off. These guys came through the windows. We didn't have screens on our windows, and at Riley Barracks, you could climb outside of the windows to the other room. So you could go from one room to the other room. 3 stories up. They came in through our windows. They got us. They put us in those chairs and taped us, and maybe about 10 minutes, and we had to sit there. And I can remember 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, we're all sitting there. It was 3 of us in a room. We're all sitting there, and new guys are moving into the building. And these guys come knocking on my door. I'm the student first sergeant. I'm the dude in charge. They come knocking on my door, and they're like, hey, we got new guys in the building. We got new guys in the building. I said, okay, we'll go help them carry their shit upstairs. Because back then, it was a CRT TV, a cathode ray tube. These are huge TVs. We had a 35-inch TV. It's like almost 300 pounds. I don't know how heavy they were. They had to be 200 pounds, easy. Big-ass TV. How are we getting it up 3 stories? So I was like, hey, go help them carry their stuff up the stairs. And they're like, no. Who got the tape? Who got the tape? I said, tape? We ain't doing that shit around here. They're like, we just taped y'all 2 weeks ago. Come on, I said, we're not doing the tape. And they kind of looked at me and they thought I was playing. I wasn't playing. We stopped taping people. We stopped taping people. And that's all it takes is a strong leader to say, we're not doing that. That's not tradition. That's not cool. We're not taping these kids. These are some of my friends. These are punks, whatever they are. We don't need to pick on these nerds. Leave them alone. No, we're not getting down like that. We're not taping nobody. And I swear to you, I lived in that building for another 6 months. Not another person was taped. And then I got stationed there. It was my first duty station. And I can tell you right now, no one ever got taped again. No one ever got taped and put in the shower ever again. Not while I was there. And it faded away. And that's what it takes. Is just somebody to step up and say, we're not doing it. But yeah, I've experienced hazing. Now, do I think any hazing is necessary or important? No. I think people misunderstand hazing for team building. Team building is essential. Team building is great. I love team building. I'm a first sergeant in the United States Army. I'm a master sergeant in the world's strongest army. I know all about team building. And I know how to build camaraderie among men at the age of 18 to 24. I know all about that demographic. And I know what to do to rally them and make them become believers in one another. One thing I will never do is demean them, haze them, sexually assault them, belittle them. No, you don't do any of that. You build them up, make them a part of the team, incorporate them. We would do relay races. We would do competitions and incorporate them with some of the other more established members of the platoon, especially when you get somebody new. You get somebody new to your organization, you got to include them. You don't want to alienate them. Anytime I would get like a new platoon sergeant, first thing I do, hey, we're going to lunch. And it's on me. I'm the first sergeant. I'm going to take you to lunch. And we're going to sit down, and we're going to break bread. And no, we don't need to be talking all serious about work. We don't need to talk about your eval and how I'm going to assess you and all this other. No, we don't need to do none of that. Let's just go chop some bread. Hey, meet me at Buffalo Wild Wings at 1800, and we're going to go watch a game tonight. And let's just sit down and hang out like people. Let's just be people for a minute. Now, we're not going to lower our standards. We're not going to talk crazy. We're not going to be best friends. I just need you to understand that there's somebody behind this. Right? So I got problems with the way they foster and build esprit de corps at Northwestern, or at least the way they did. So that's how I feel about it. That's just me. But next question. Let me keep going here. Shout out to everybody on TikTok. If you want to talk to us and join the show, all you got to do is hit the link up here and move on over to YouTube, and you can join in. Hey, Rico, you want a former coach and vet on your staff that knows football? What? Yeah, I'm a former vet. I'm a vet. I mean, I'm an active duty master sergeant, and I know a shit ton of football. I used to coach. I hear you. Was the kid proven innocent in the sexual assault charges? So no, Cam, you're never proven innocent. Remember that. You're not proven innocent if you don't go to court. You're not innocent. You didn't go to court. We didn't find out if you're innocent or guilty. They chose not to press charges. Stop using the term innocent. Innocent is for people who go to court and are found innocent. You can be acquitted, innocent, take a plea deal, plead no contest, be guilty. You can be guilty by association. You can be guilty in public opinion. But one thing you can't be is really, for me, I don't use the term innocent unless you've been to court and you were found innocent. I don't use that term all the time. Innocent are children. Children have innocence, right? Think about what I'm saying. Hey, Big D. Hey, what up, Big Daddy? Hey, Lexi. Good to see you. UGA does not ignore off-field behavior in all caps. Motivated, dedicated. Don't come in here and talk in all caps. I can read it in lowercase as well. It doesn't mean anything if you write in all caps. Your cap locks is stuck, bro. Adam Anderson was kicked off the team for his off-field behavior. Sounds good. the team showed up to court like he was still on the team. That's what the problem is. That's what the problem is. Verbatim. He definitely made up 11. Definitely made up 11. Yeah, I'm with you there. Unless he provides a list of 11. I think 11 sounded good because it's the starting 11 on a football team. But I'd say 3 is too many. I don't care if he made up 11. I would say 3 is too many. You shouldn't have 1. Yo, Rico, what are your thoughts on Uncle Lou? Uncle Lou? Who's Uncle Lou? Who's Uncle Lou? I know Uncle Drew. Let me know who Uncle Lou. Georgia has no standards. Apparently they do. Their standards are winning. Early live. Shout out to you, Steve. Just pleasant reminder. Thank you very much, Steve. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Just no need to name call or make sexual insults. No space for that here. Thank you very much. Rico knows. What up, Lewis Henton? Good to see you, brother. Roll Tide. Are the players wrong? You can support someone, but you don't have to support their actions. Substantial. So, Flyboy, I don't know what you meant by substantial because I'm getting here so late to it, but are the players wrong? The players aren't wrong. The conduct by the attorney is wrong. To inform the players when there was court coming up for one of their ex-players, that's wrong. That's what I'm saying. They should have just stayed out of it. Stay out of it. You don't need to do that. It is not your job to inform them when court is for somebody who used to be on the team. It just doesn't happen that way. And I think they learned from their mistakes because they didn't do it again. What up, Rico? Loving these quick deep dives. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate it. And once again, Jared coming through with the tip. If you guys didn't know, I do this for a living, so I appreciate all the support and the tips I get. You guys make it possible. Thank you very much, Jared. I appreciate you. Rico, how long until it hits the fan in Athens? Well, Jared, argumentatively, it's hitting the fan now. The problem is there's always going to be some type of insulation. For example, Pete Carroll his name is not tainted in the world of sports, and it should be. Everything that happened under Pete Carroll's watch, Pete Carroll was a horrific, enforcer of standards, right? Because the lack of a standard becomes the new standard. So I have a really big issue with Pete Carroll's moral compass and maybe ethical decision-making, and he got off scot-free because he left. So who knows? What does hit the fan look like to you? Right? Judd has hated Kirby since he was hired at Georgia. Well, I would say that you can hate a lot of people, but what you shouldn't do is lose your credibility in the process. Do you know the link to the phone call you mentioned in the comments about Serena Williams admitting to hiding from the USDA? I looked and can't find it. Thanks. So, Nathan Goodman, I want you to look into the president of the Women's Tennis Association, the WTA. He's the one who got overheard talking on the phone and saying the details about Serena Williams hiding in the house. So remember this. There's a president in charge of tennis talking at the airport loud on the phone saying Serena was hiding in the house. That's what you got to find. It's out there. You'll find it. Was everyone okay in the accident? Not cool. Please don't do that. Obviously, somebody passed away. 2 people passed away. Hey, Rico. Hey, what up, Cam? Yo, let Rico cook. Hey, man, I'm doing what I do. What up? What's your top 5 preseason college football teams? I've already done my top 25. So my number 1 was Michigan. Number 2, USC. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, LSU. And number 5 was Georgia. Do you think Northwestern just hires an interim head coach for the year, or do they have time to go out and get one before this year? So, Cool Kid Isaac, couple things. I think they have to do an interim, just like UAB did last year. UAB, when their head coach retired in August. The reason is, who the hell are you going to hire? You can only hire people that are unemployed. Everybody else is under contract at a different school right now, and they can't leave their teams because they're going to show up and not know the team. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. Remember, whatever coach leaves a team gives that entire team a 30-day window to enter the transfer portal for free. So if they hire somebody on a team right now, that's bad news. I would think they would keep an interim from within. I would think. That's how I think that goes. Do you take back your Wimby on a Wimpy jokes after his redemption game too? Do you feel you jumped the gun? Kamzi, I can't read names. That's why I call him Wimpy. I don't know how to say his name. Here's the deal, man. I didn't jump the gun on anything. ESPN wrote a headline that said he dominated on offense and defense. ESPN lied, so I made a video called ESPN is a fraud because they lied. And if you haven't noticed, I care about journalistic integrity. And when I said that, I was pointing out their lies. Don't forget it. The fact that he did well in game 2 has no bearing on me. Did he then have an article written about him and said he did terrible? That would have been a lie. They didn't do that, okay? So remember the whole point of the video was ESPN lied in their headline. I don't like liars. The rest of this, I don't understand what you're saying. I call him wimp because he's skinny and weak. Did he gain a bunch of muscle last night from game 1 to game 2? No, he's still skinny and weak. He's still a wimp to me. And he's a wimp. I'll shoulder check him right now. I'm telling you that right now. That dude couldn't see me in the hallway. I'm shoulder checking that dude. I ain't Britney Spears. But back to what I'm saying, I didn't jump the gun on anything. I called him weak. He looked terrible in the game. He looked like Manute Bull with some dribbling. That's what he looked like in the game. The fact that game 2 he played better has no bearing on what I said. I made my assessment of his performance in game 1. If I was writing a story, I would have wrote that headline. This man looked like Manute Bull with some dribbling. Because Manute Bull used to get blocks all the time. That dude was 7'8". That's all I said. I'd give an accurate headline for what the kid did in that game. I don't get what you guys are saying. You think I made an assessment on his overall career? Well, if that's the case, how the hell are you making this assessment after one game? Hazing someone, making you do something that you wouldn't do on a daily. Them saying drink water at this time is hazing if you don't drink water and they make you. No, not necessarily. Hazing, remember, hazing is going to be something systemic and ritual, something that happens numerous times. It's not generally a one-time deal. Telling somebody to do something you wouldn't do on the daily is not hazing, right? Sometimes that's just delegation. I delegate things down to people who beneath me, subordinate leaders, all the time. Right? So an example can be, hey, pick this trash up. That's not hazing. I got to make sure this place is clean, but you work for me, so pick this trash up. Is that hazing? No, that's delegation. Hey, I need to make sure this looks right, cut that grass. Organize this paperwork, clean this room, do this, do that. Well, what's your job? Well, my job is to make sure this shit gets done. And I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to delegate it down to you guys, utilizing my resources to get it done. None of that is hazing. Hazing is, I guess I should pull up the definition, but when I think of hazing, I think of unjustified, degrading team building. Degrading team building is hazing, as far as I'm concerned. Under the guise of team building, right? Degrading acts under the guise of team building. How about that? Your drug test video is good. WADA is crazy compared to the NCAA testing testers. Would just pull up to our apartment, randomly test my buddy. Swear it was like every month. Yeah, William Malcolm, it's pretty crazy. WADA, USADA, there's a bunch of testing agencies in various countries and various levels, and they will just show up whenever they damn well please. Just letting you know. Shout out to Willie. What up, Willie Bobo? 20 years in the service. Respect, bro. Shout out to you, Trenton. Thank you very much. I'm still in. It's over 20 years now. I'm from the old school where hazing was rampant, but not once was there a sexual aspect to it. If I was approached with a naked bear crawl, we box him flat out. Pot of coffee? You say that, but have you guys ever looked into the hazing deaths in America? When there's a whole Wikipedia page dedicated to this. Now I know about it because I did a search on it. Because I like to do education, right? Hazing deaths in America. And there's a whole Wikipedia page. And when you get into it, the deaths, stuff like burns, kidney trauma, injuries from fall. I mean, it makes for a great reading. There's something called gassing. Female cook who died when undergraduates misdirected chlorine gas into the kitchen as part of the hazing prank. The gas was intended to interrupt the Cornell freshman banquet. I don't know, this happened back in 1894. Right? Spine trauma, drowning, internal injuries, neck, sepsis. I mean, you just keep going and going and going. A bunch of broken necks, gunshot. I don't even know. How do you do a gunshot, bro? What are we shooting? How does that work? Electrocution, immolation. Immolation is burning, by the way. Saltpeter overdose. What is saltpeter? I don't know what happened in the military, bro. hit by a vehicle, 3 people hit by a vehicle, drowned, choking, cardiac arrest, heart failure, head trauma, buried alive, hit by a train, heart attack. This one of these happened at FAMU not too long ago, right? I remember that. Florida A&M was having it. The band was doing it. Heat stroke, alcohol consumption, right? Here's what they don't tell you, though. Now we're in the 90s. Now we're in the stuff I remember. What they don't tell you is all this hazing is like people committing suicide. All this hazing is alcohol-induced nonsense. But you know what won't kill you? Sexual assault. Sexual assault, hazing, that ain't killing you. That ain't killing you. And that's why it's not on this list. There's so many different hazing infractions and illegal hazing things that take place. It's not even on the list. Because it's not noteworthy unless it kills you, right? People just let it go. But I could remember Florida A&M had an issue with hazing in the 2000s at some point. Yeah, here it is. Robert Champion. Collapse. Drum major. Oh, you guys can't see it. I finally found it. That one I remember vividly. University president resigned shortly after. University president resigned shortly after. This is why that president went out and fired head coach. He doesn't want to get fired for it. I think he should. I think he should be fired for agreeing to the 2 weeks initially. Now, if you guys haven't heard, Pat Fitzgerald is suing the school and saying, I want my job back because we had agreed to 2 weeks. And then the president unilaterally decided to change it. He said, hey, no, we're not doing 2 weeks. We're going to do more than 2 weeks. Come on, bro. Come on. Anyways. Hell, I remember people swimming in oceans for a certain spot on my guy. There you go. Wemby could be really good in a year or so, but he's going to struggle against guys like Embiid and Draymond this year. Pete's timing was immaculate. Who's Pete? Who's Pete? Not sure if this was asked already, but what would it take for Kirby to be fired? Do you think it would happen? Yeah, I think losing would take. Knowingly hiding sexual assaults. Trying to think. I apologize. I just read a comment right now from my twin brother. And a bunch of other things. Recruiting violations. Bro, Morant's Rant says, bro, I rock with you, but that patch of hair has to be addressed. Heimerdinger livestream 2-0 GG. So this patch of hair here, I just got a haircut today. I asked for a 2 on the top. That's what I get. And I asked her to leave my bangs alone. But I get a high skin fade. I was at Sports Clips. I tipped her $6. I don't be tipping more than $6. They wanted a $10 tip. That's crazy. Everybody on live was saying tip her $10. I was like, turn this damn live off right now. Chip Towers is just as bad as Judd. Oh, Chip Towers, another writer? Okay. Addressed. Wemby turns sideways, you can't see him. That dude, he looks like a baby deer, bro. Not Manu Bull, LO, I saw that too. There you go. Wemby looked like Bambi right out the womb, Pete Carroll. Okay. And this was the story right here. I was just talking about Pat Fitzgerald. I was going to talk about it tonight. But look, guys, I don't want to drag this one out because I want Georgia fans to actually watch this live stream. So I'm going to post this. I'm going to close it out here. Talked about it for 90 minutes. I hope Georgia fans, or 2 hours, I hope Georgia fans give it a chance and understand that I am an unbiased reporter of the facts. And that is that. I just wish people would understand and hear me out. And they don't always do that. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Hey, shout out to everybody who supports us from the jump. And, I love the unconditional support. That's really important to me. Somebody said, Rico, you're going to lose a lot of fans. You keep going at Georgia like this. No, I'm not. I'm losing haters. I'm losing non-believers. And for me, I'm not worried about them. I'm only worried about the guys who are going to be here till the end. And that's you guys. So shout out to all of you. I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. Let's get it.
When they come, and they will, they'll come for you.
I have an army.
We have a Hulk.
Well, I thought the beast had wandered off.
You're missing the point. There's no throne. There is no version of this where you come out on top.
Let me infiltrate the beat, concentrate the heat. If you ain't on my level, fuck it, let me be. I'll be going till it's all in motion. Talking killing rappers, then I hit my quota. And my train of thought is more a locomotive. Talking reason for it, I got locomotive. Used to be on a revenge tip, on a stun on my ex and a friend's tip. I was Spider-Man whipping the black suit. I was powerful but almost lost Luke. Blurring the line between human and artist. Try not to change, but I swear it's the hardest. I swear when you're up, they turn you to a target. Home was a trip, my life ain't when I'm talking. So, what it take to be an icon? All in your desktop, so I just might already be one. My me with the label, it feels on the table one sign, but I'm down for a free lunch. Just speaking my heat-seeking missiles of hits, but other than me, I see no heat exist. Yo, gassed up, I'm about to go green, go green, go green. Hulk smash if she know me, know me, know me. Write it to life like I'm Stan Lee, Stan Lee, Stan Lee. If life's about to be a cold war, I'm the hero that they asked for. Green, 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 green. I'm about to go green.